All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life's in Curriculum. I'm Quan King, and today we're going to talk about going pro. Although I'm going to speak primarily about basketball, keep in mind this can be applied to football, volleyball, tennis, any sport, well, most sports that you can think of. Now, if there's some sport that you're thinking of is a little more abstract or maybe non-traditional, then I would say consider make some modifications here and there. And if there's something in particular you want to talk about, reach out. I'm more than willing to help. But today we're going to talk about going pro. I get a lot of young people who tell me they're going to go to the league, they're going to go to the A, they're going to do these things. I look at them and in my mind, I'm like, ain't no way, but I'm not going to kill your dreams. But here's some conversations that I typically have, and here's how they go. So the first thing to keep in mind is, do you want to go to the league or do you want to be one of the all-time greats? Now, to be one of the all-time greats, by default, you're going to get in the league. But if your goal is only get in the league, then what happens if you get there? Are you going to have the discipline and the internal motivation to stay in the league? Because the average, according to the Broke documentary that was a 30 for 30 on ESPN some time ago, the average career length is only about 3 years. And if you think about that, that's really only your rookie contract. Think about this. A lot of people get into the league, get that first deal, and then that's it. They don't make it to a second deal, third deal, anything like that. They're done. So it's important to think about this is not a sprint to get in the league. This is an endurance race. This is a marathon. This is your career. This is what you're going to do for a large portion of your life, should you choose to pursue it. So with that regard, you got to plan accordingly. So let's talk about it. Basketball is on the spectrum. I like to think about it like that, right? So first and foremost, there are people who've never touched a basketball before, ever in life. There are some of the all-time greats of all time. We call them GOATs. You're talking about your Jordans, your Kobes, your LeBrons, your Kareems, your Bill Russells, all these people who oftentimes just go by a first name. These are all-time greats. Basketball exists on that spectrum. I'm somewhere on that spectrum, somewhere probably closer to here than over here. You may be on the spectrum somewhere, maybe over here versus over here. I'm not critiquing, I'm just letting you know it's on the spectrum. And so the important thing to realize is that all of the NBA players, all of the college players, all the guys that are playing overseas, the guys in the G League, they're on one end of the spectrum. And it's crowded over there. It's densely populated with a lot of people that really know how to play basketball at a high level who are all vying for a set number of seats inside the NBA. Now, think about that. There's only a set number of roster spots per team. And every year, and multiple times throughout the course of the year, there are just as many, if not more people trying to get one of those spots. If you can think of all the NBA players that you can think of off the top of your head right now that are playing in the NBA, just understand that they hold one spot. So you're Kevin Durant, your James Hardens, your Kawhi Leonard, your Kyries, your Stephs, your Clays, your Draymonds, your Bronze, your DeMar DeRozans. All of these guys hold a roster spot, which means that's a spot that you can't get to. And they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that they maintain that spot because they work their asses off to get there and they want to stay there for as long as they can. So keep that in mind. That's the competition that you're playing up against. Not these random guys you see out in the street playing on the courts or the random people in the gym that are shooting around all day. You're trying to compete against NBA players for one of their spots. And they're not going to give it up just because you want it. All right, so let's talk about early on. I'm going to take you through the whole process of starting off where you should be and what you should think about. Now, I'm going to say with confidence, should you follow these steps, and I'm not saying perfectly to a T, but should you follow these steps, I firmly believe you will find yourself in the league. Period. Now, if it doesn't happen, if you think I'm full of shit, call me out. More than welcome to have a conversation about it, more than open to discussing it. But I'm a firm believer that if you follow these steps, you will get in the league. But here's the quiz, the intro homework I like to give to young people when they ask me this question or when they talk about, I'm trying to get to the league. I say, okay, I want you to name me the current NBA players that are from Philadelphia in the league right now. So pause the video, think it over, and tell me what you think. We back? All right. So there are 5 players: Kyle Lowry, Mikal Bridges, The Morris twins. So Marcus and Markeith and Lonnie Walker the fourth. Five players. Now, it would be important, it would behoove you to know where these young men went to high school, because these are schools that are either in or around the Philadelphia area. So we're talking about Kyle Lowry went to Cardinal Doherty, which no longer exists anymore. Then he went on to Villanova. Mikal Bridges went to Great Valley High School out in Malvern. Then he also went to Villanova. So the Morris twins both went to Prep Charter out in Point Breeze. They both also went to Kansas. Lonnie Walker IV was out in Reading. So Reading, Pennsylvania, just outside the city. He ended up going to the University of Miami. So what does that tell you? It tells you there's a pipeline in Philly. There are high school coaches who have coached NBA talent. That's the first part of homework that you need to keep in mind. Now, what else do you need to know? There are other schools that have produced NBA talent. They just might not be in the league right now. Those schools are Roman Catholic, Jalen Duren, and Lamar Stevens. So these are individuals who are not originally from Philadelphia, but went to these schools. Friend Central, DeAndre Hunter, Westtown School, Derek Lively II, and Cam Reddish. Now, the Westtown School is out in Westchester. Archbishop Wood, Colin Gillespie, and Mastery Charter, which is Linfest Pickett, Justin Edwards, and Daquan Plowden. Okay? Now, in the past, Philadelphia high schools that have produced NBA talent are also Overbrook, Episcopal, Lower Merion. If you don't know who came from Lower Merion, you should just turn this off. Franklin Learning Center and Simon Gratz. Individuals who are projected to go to NBA are currently going to William Penn Charter, St. Joe's Prep, and Imhotep. So I just named off 10, 15 schools all throughout the city. If you're in high school and you're not in one of those schools currently, and you're trying to tell me you're going to the league, that means you didn't do your homework. Now, that's not to say that you can't be the person putting your high school on the map to go ahead and go to the NBA. But what I am telling you is you may be operating outside of a pipeline that already exists. There's already a path to get to the NBA in Philly. And if you're not on that path, you're taking the road less traveled. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just may be more difficult than you're making it. So let's talk about when you're young, when you're a little kid, right? So if you're a little kid, you're learning how to play basketball at rec centers, which makes sense. And I'm talking about elementary to middle school. You're learning from individuals who know how to play basketball, people who are coaching the fundamentals. That's what you should be focusing on in elementary and middle school. Now, I like to also, I live in the camp of you should be practicing with the equipment that's appropriate to your age level. Now, I know there's a big debate about young kids shooting with a men's ball, right? I'm of the camp of that you should be shooting with the ball that is proportionate to your height, strength, and skill level. So if that means you shoot with like a youth ball, you should be, because that's going to help you create a solid form when it comes to shooting a basketball. I can't tell you how many times I've seen young people from the earliest they could pick up a men's basketball trying to play with that, and they have to rework their entire shot because they are still using mechanics from when they were too small to actually get the ball up to the rim. And so they don't really know how to shoot. They've learned over time an incorrect mechanic that has got them some success, but it makes it that much more difficult to actually learn how to shoot properly. So I'm of the camp, when you're a young kid, you should have a small basketball. And you should probably be shooting on a lower goal so that you are familiar with how it's supposed to feel when you're shooting a basketball. So that way, as you get older, as you level up and as you skill up, now you can use the appropriate size basketball and you'll be nice. It'll feel normal, to feel natural. You're not gonna have to learn how to reshoot just because now you're in middle school and high school first. Now, once you get to high school, you're gonna want to be involved in a public league or Catholic league, depending on, what kind of school that you're in. I would say you can be involved in AAU and some of these summer league games, but keep in mind that AAU is really good for exposure. You are likely not going to get a whole lot of really great instruction and game management type experience, like the logistics, the X's and O's about basketball from AAU. That's not what AAU is designed to do at this point in time. There was a time when, yes, you probably could find that, but now it's all about showcase. There are hundreds, thousands of kids every year going through the AAU system that are trying to get to the league. And most of these coaches and organizations that are supporting these AAU teams are not really interested in developing the talent. They're really looking at who's already got it and how can we put a big spotlight on them and move them ahead, move them forward, so that gets us some kickbacks. That gets us some team sneaks for next year. That gets us some sweatsuits or some travel bags or travel paid for or admission into an exclusive tournament so we can get these young kids some exposure. That's just what it is. That's capitalism. If you don't like it, I mean, this is America. Don't catch you slipping up. Also, summer camps and tournaments are great opportunities for exposure as well. Again, so you're talking about, this was back in the day, you had your big Nike tournament, Adidas tournament, that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of it, these are all, the NBA players have their own camp. So LeBron has a camp, Steph has a camp. So those are the things that you want to be looking for and trying to get involved in as well over the summers. I would strongly recommend that you don't do it all 4 years. And here's why. The accumulated wear and tear that you're putting on your body as your body's still growing and developing is actually working to a benefit when you need your body the most once you get into the league, right? Because you're going to go through a significant wear and tear. You're talking about playing 82 games a season. In high school and in college, you're playing like what, 20, 25? Something like that. Like, you're not playing nearly as many games and your season's not nearly as long. You guys might start your basketball season in high school in like December, maybe do some like early stuff in October, but you guys are done come March. So you're not playing for like 3 months. For real, for real. But in the NBA, but we're starting right at the end of summer, and we damn near in before summer like starts out. Like we run it the whole time, right? It's exhausting. And your body's got to be conditioned and built for that. And if you're burning yourself out running through AAU tournaments all summer long, and then you're trying to play and you're in the pub league or in the Catholic league all year long, then that accumulated wear and tear in your body is just going to lead to injuries later on in life. Injuries that you probably shouldn't have young in your career, that like older players will get, you'll be getting once you're just getting into the league. If you don't believe me, ask D Rose. Ask some of these guys that are like, oh my God, he's great. And then all of a sudden, you're like, damn, hey, towards ACL, done. Like, now granted, you can come back from ACL injuries these days, but still, like, that's something that you don't really necessarily want to go through if you don't have to. You see what I'm saying? All right, so I would say here's what you focus on in high school: grades, nutrition, your fitness, and your health. Learn the game. Really, really learn the game. Talk to people about basketball. Watch basketball. Watch high school games. Watch college games. Watch NBA games. Watch rec games. Coach some of these young kids in some of these little kid leagues. Referee some of those games as well. Like, you really got to immerse yourself in the game and understand all the X's and O's and all the little nuances, all the little scenarios and all the things that can happen. That's what you want to be. You're going to be a student of the game. You really want to learn the game on that really base core level and be able to see it through other people's eyes as well, because they're going to be looking at you when you're playing through those same eyes of like, can this guy really play? Does he know what he's doing? Is he lost out there? When the big moment comes, how does he respond? How's he acting? Appropriate footwear. So this is a big thing, right? A lot of these signature shoes that these NBA players have, these shoes are designed specifically for them. So LeBron James has a shoe that's designed for his foot and how he plays. So unless you're built like LeBron James and play like LeBron James, chances are you should not be wearing a LeBron James signature shoe. Now, I know it looks great. It gets you street cred or whatever. It's your drip, it's your swag. Not trying to hear that shit, bro. Like, wearing the wrong footwear actually can lead to knee and ankle injuries. So again, if you're talking about trying to get to a location further down the line, don't jeopardize it because you're trying to look cool now, right? Wear the appropriate footwear. And if you don't know, do the research. Find out. There was a time when a lot of these superstar athletes had a shoe line, but they had a team line. So you had different types of sneaks, whether you were just a shooting guard, whether you were more of a point guard and you were like a playmaker and you did a lot of slash and cut, and they had built-in stuff for lateral movement. If you were big, they had high ankle support, those kind of things. Figure out how do you play, and then what type of shoe do you need to wear to support how you play. Very important. Can't stress that enough, because you will mess your feet up. And again, if you're playing basketball, you're going to be on your feet all the time. Last time I checked, you can't really play basketball on your hands. So you're going to need your feet, you're going to need your knees, you're going to need your ankles, you're going to need your hips, all that stuff. The wrong pairs of shoes can mess you up all the way from your toenails all the way up to your shoulders and your back. I'm just being real. Wear the right kind of shoes, the right kind of socks, all that kind of stuff, and play within a way in which you're supposed to play. Just being smart, okay? When you're in high school too, your friends, your family relationships, let that be something that you focus on. And what I mean focus on, I mean pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with. Are these guys constantly getting in trouble? Are they fucking around? Are they doing shit they're not supposed to be doing? Is that something that you need? Because think about it long term. When you're getting called on draft night, are these the people sitting around the table with you, supporting you, being there? These your day ones? You got to be smart about who you pick, because there's some people that are just going to be there because they're like, yo, you going to make it and you going to pull me out and I'm going with you. And there are other people who are like, you're going to make it and I'm going to make it. Because just the same way that you're passionate about getting up playing basketball and that's going to be your ticket out, I'm passionate about getting up and doing this other thing, whether it's physics, whether it's running a business, whether it's the arts, whether it's whatever. They figured out this is what I'm passionate about. And I don't necessarily need your support. I look to you because you help motivate me. You inspire me to go out here and get the same shit done. Those are the kind of people you want to surround yourself with. Family that's uplifting you, that's like pushing you up. Not necessarily pushing you out, and definitely not pulling you down. Family that's like, look, I want you to do great. I'm going to be there to support you. I'm going to hold you accountable. But I can't do this for you. Those are the kind of things that you want to hear from family that supports you. And your relationships. Look, I'm not saying you can't, get you a little boot thing or, find your little dude or whatever, but you have to be able to prioritize what's important. And I can guarantee you this right now. Your focus should be on making sure that you can get in and you can have a great long career in the league. Love can happen at any point during that journey. It doesn't have to happen at the beginning and doesn't have to happen at the end. But there's a lot of stuff that you need to ensure and get done first before you really worry about a relationship that can turn into getting married or having kids or starting a family, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff you got to do before you get to that point. And I'm not saying you can't have anybody that's rocking with you from day one. I'm not saying that. But what I will say, as I've said before, when it comes to relationships, let that be a friendship. Build up a real legitimate friendship that doesn't have any sort of like catch to it. And what I mean by that, like this person gonna rock with you whether you make it in the league or not. Like, and you know that. You feel that in your bones. It's not something where it's like, shit, if I make it, like, they're gonna be hyped. But if I don't, like, are they gonna be mad? Are they gonna drop me? Like they're gonna be out? Because I've seen this shit happen before, bro. I've seen it. I've seen people who were like about to go to the league and for whatever reason, shit didn't pan out. And the same people that they thought was rocking with them all of a sudden was like, bro, like you really ain't doing shit. Like, all right, I mean, I'm gonna holler at you later. And that's a cool splash of water to the face. So focus on building up actual true friends. And you'll see people will sort themselves out. Guarantee. All right. Learn to teach. Remember how I said before, you should be getting involved in camps, getting involved in little workshops and skill development and working some of these leagues as a coach or as referee. I would say look to be able to learn the game by teaching it. There's a very important saying. You don't really know something until you can teach it to somebody else. So once you're able to be able to tell a young person how to do something, that's when you know that you really know what you're talking about. If you struggle with, well, how do I teach a kid how to dribble with his offhand? If that's something that you have trouble doing, then you can't really show them how to do it if you don't know how to do it. So make sure that you are learning the game so that you can be able to teach it to somebody else, and let that be your motivation. If you want to coach a young kids team, or if you want to be a referee and you're uncertain about things about the game, that's an opportunity for you to learn. And you should absolutely learn, 1,000% learn, because you're going to need to know all those things, because at some point in time, it's going to come in handy. promise you that. Also, what you should be doing, you should be skills training, working on different skills. So again, things that you don't know, things you're not good at, work on those skills. You should work out with the level that's above you. Now, keep this in mind. There is such thing as compliance, NCAA compliance. You can't put yourself in a position where it looks like it's an improper benefit or that you are being somehow improperly communicated with by like a college, university, or a professional agency or anything like that. Now, here's what I will say, right? You might have an older brother, or you might have a family member that has played in the league or is playing in college, whatever, right? Or is playing overseas. There's nothing wrong with you like working out with them, but you have to be mindful of what your eligibility is and what you can and cannot do during certain times, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think the NCAA is gonna come in and say you can't play basketball. You know, you and your brother can't go play pickup at the rec center. No. But what they may say is that you can't go and be part of your brother's college practice at Villanova or at, you know, or at Drexel or Temple or anything like that. Like you can't be part of that organized basketball program, which is valid, right? But if you guys are playing together in, you know, let's say like a rec league or something like that in your respective off seasons, or if you're just going around playing pickup with your brother or someone else that you know, as long as they're not trying to sway you or influence you to say, hey man, get this agent, hey man, go to this school. Like those are the kind of things that are going to raise a red flag with the NCAA, and that could jeopardize your ability and your amateur status to be able to actually play college ball. Sleep. Take your punk ass to sleep. You're going to need the rest. If you're working out, if you're doing all these things and you're playing ball and, you know, you are eating properly and you're wearing the right gear and you're working out properly, you're going to be tired. Your body needs to rest in order for it to actually heal itself and prepare yourself for the next day. If you're not getting your rest, you can't perform at your best the next day. Point blank, period. It's not even up for debate. Rest. Get your rest. Film study. Like I said before, watch games, watch tape. If you have access to your high school games or your coaches, talk to them. Hey, can I get some game film? Or can we go over some game film together? Show me what it is that I need to do better. Show me what it is I need to know in order to be a great player. I want to be able to look at myself. I want to be able to be a scout for me and scout myself and say, like, here are my tendencies. Here's what I like to do where I need to improve. If you can do that for yourself, then you can start creating a game that's truly unstoppable because you already know what your worst habits are. You know where your weaknesses are. And then you're doing something about it and you're addressing it. So you're having a go-to move and then you're having a counter to that go-to move when that go-to move gets cut off. And so you're actually putting the things together like you're supposed to be doing. But if you're not watching film, if you're not watching other people play, if you're never, you know, looking at the game from an outside perspective, well, then you're only going to learn so much. You're just going off of instinct when you get in there. And you're not being able to understand how you can be a better part of a system because you're not watching how the system operates. Talk basketball with coaches, with refs, with other players. Again, like if there's something you're passionate about, you should be learning as much as you can. Even things that you think are like, you know, not that serious or, you know, it's not that deep. No, it may be. Like if you're talking to somebody who's played in the league before, who's played in college, and they're breaking down something on film, and they're talking about the importance of why you need to rebound or why you need to box out or why you need to move your feet, play defense with your feet versus playing defense with your hands, that's something that's wisdom, that's knowledge right there. That's going to help you when you get to that point where maybe you find yourself in foul trouble or you get an early foul. All right, I got to play defense with my feet now. I got to figure out, like, what does that mean? And if you don't know what that means, again, opportunity to learn, opportunity for you to understand how you're supposed to play the game of basketball. And one of the best ways to do that is through officiating. Again, if you have the opportunity to officiate, whether it's, you know, let's say you're in high school, is you can officiate middle school or like elementary school, you know, CYO, that kind of stuff. Those are opportunities right there to be able to learn how to play the game by officiating the game, by knowing the rules, knowing how to apply the rules appropriately, and putting yourself in a high pressure situation when the game's on the line because you need to know how to watch, what you're looking for, how to do all these different things. That the same thing's going to happen when you get on the court. You're going to be looking for how they're setting up their defense. You're going to know, hey, this guy's in a box for more than 3 seconds. That's a violation. Hey, this guy stepped on the line when I was shooting a free throw. That's a lane violation. Hey, this guy didn't inbound the ball properly. Those are things that you need to know as a basketball player because you don't want to make those mistakes and cost your team the game at any point in time. So again, officiating, great way to do that. And more often than not, you probably get a little change for it. All right, so your goal in high school, you need to win the public league, bro. Minimum. Your goal should be to win the public league or Catholic league, whatever, and go on beyond that. Whether that's winning the state, winning a region, winning nationals, like that should be your goal. So like every year for the 4 years that you're in high school, you should be like, yo, we're trying to win a pub. If not this year, the next year, and we're trying to go further than that. We're trying to be the best team in the country, period. Hands down, without question. Again, that's going to help get you exposure as well, right? So that should be your goal. If your goal is to be the best in the city, all right, you can be the best in the city and still not make it to the NBA, period. So win the pub. Go beyond winning the pub. Be one of the best in the country, period. Hands down. Because also keep in mind, there are more foreign-born players that are now in the league, that are now household names. They're also occupying a roster spot that you're trying to get to. So just being the best in Philadelphia ain't good enough anymore, because there are more players that are coming from other countries that you probably never even heard of, and they're the best in their whole country. And so if you're only the best in Philadelphia, you might not even be the best in Pennsylvania. All right. Now, you've done all this. You won the pub a couple times. You've won, state championship. You guys are good. Maybe you made it to the national championship game for high school. You guys didn't win, whatever. But you got a decorated career. They're definitely gonna retire your jersey in the Hall of Fame in a couple of years after you graduate, all that kind of stuff, right? Now we're talking about colleges. By this point, you've already been getting recruited. You've already, you've been coaching a little bit. You've been officiating. You've been a student of the game. People notice. People take part. You've been at different places where scouts were, whether you knew it or not. Other coaches were, whether you knew it or not. People are looking, asking questions, talking about you, and you're getting recruited. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Now, we know NIL money is out there, right? We know how it's changed the entire game at this point. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. Shout out to Michigan who just won a championship. Go Blue. You need to focus on one or two things. Either you're going to go and get this bag, this NIL bag, or you're going to learn how to play basketball. The choice is yours. Now, in some rare instances, you may have the opportunity to do both. But more often than not, you're going to have to choose, do I go for the most money, or do I go for the opportunity that's going to get me where I need to go? And where I need to go is I need to learn the game on the college level. I need to master it. Everything I did in high school to get to be one of the best in the country, I need to do it all over again now, because the guys I'm playing against in college, they were all the best at their high school and the best in their city and the best in their county, their region, et cetera, best in their state. I'm playing against that level of talent every night, right? So I got to work just as hard as I did before, if not harder, to be better than all these guys I'm going to play against. Not just the guys on my team, but also every team we're going to play against within our conference, and then all the teams that we're going to play outside of our conference and even nationally, right? I want to be the best. So either you can go get the bag, which doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be able to learn how to play basketball, because again, that's going to be almost like AAU a little bit. You're going to get opportunities to be seen on national TV and all that kind of stuff. But if you only play so many minutes, or if, you don't really know what you're doing when you're out there and your reliability, and that's a bad look, right? So you need to go somewhere where you're going to learn how to play basketball for real. Now, here's one thing to keep in mind. I know there's a requirement that you need to stay in school for X number of years or whatever, right? Man, the league will wait for you. Don't worry about when you're going to, go to the league, all that kind of stuff. I know you are the next step away from it, but this is probably one of the most important steps that you can take right now. Because if you had the opportunity to get an education for free, just because you can play basketball a little bit, man, you better take an education, because there will be a time where you no longer can play basketball. And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do then? If you don't have an education, if you don't have any sort of like basis and understanding, then what's going to happen? And not only that, like the value of your education is something that's so huge. And I think a lot of times young people look past it because someone's giving it away almost for free. So you don't think it has value. No, it has a tremendous value, especially now. Like, you really should take the opportunity to take full advantage of that and learn as much as you can, because all this stuff is going to help you. Now, here's what I'll say. You might be able to put yourself in a position to get your own degree. And what do I mean by that? Well, talk to an advisor if you are in college, or once you figure out which school you want to go to. See if you can talk to an advisor to say, hey, I want to build a degree. Is that possible? And here's some things that might be beneficial for you to study. Study kinesiology, the science of how the body moves and your body in motion. That's going to be huge for you as a professional athlete. Economics and finance. Learn how money works, how your money can make more money. Communications. How do you present yourself? How do you hear information? How do you receive information? How do you give information? Law, because you're going to be signing contracts. You're going to be signing all sorts of agreements. It's good and important to know what's legally binding versus what's not. What's an agreement versus a memo versus a contract. Those things are all different. Learn you some business. Also important, learn your marketing. Because when you put all these things together, you're managing yourself. Because once you get to the league, you are now a brand. You are a player, yes, but your image means something. And you can cash that in, because people may say, hey, I want to give you an endorsement. Hey, I want you to wear my warm-up jacket when you're not playing basketball, because that's going to help me get some exposure. And so you need to understand what your requirements are if you were to do something like that. And it's important that you have a foundational understanding, like a basic understanding of a lot of these concepts. So again, that's why I firmly believe if you have the opportunity to take some of these classes, you absolutely should, just to have a base level understanding. I'm not saying you got to get all A's in all these courses, but you should definitely have a baseline understanding of those courses. All right. Also, why is it important for you to take advantage of the education? Because once you graduate, and let's say you go to the league, it's expected now that you have all this information, you have all this knowledge, because you had the opportunity to get it. So if you forego your education to go into the league and play ball, there's going to be an assumption that, okay, well, you didn't need to learn anything. You know everything you need to know, and so you're good now. So when someone approaches you with this opportunity, like, yo, if you just give me like 450,000, like I'm gonna turn that into $1 million real quick, like overnight, and I got you, bro. Someone with an education is gonna say, bro, no, I'm not falling for that. But if you don't have an education and you're sitting here like, oh, that sounds crazy, bro, like sign me up, I got you. And then you sign away your checks. And again, you don't get paid. You may, once you get into the NBA, depending on what your signing bonus is or what round you're drafted in, all that kind of stuff, that all determines how much you get paid at and at what rate. But you don't get a lot of this stuff all up front. So if you're signing up for stuff on the premise that you're going to the league, you may not have the money you think you have. After you have to pay everything else, including your taxes, you're going to have to pay your agent, you're going to have to pay all sorts of other stuff, trainers, and you're going to have to relocate and move. It's more than you realize, and you may not get nearly as much as you think you get right up front. So again, that's why your education is so important. Don't skimp out on that shit. All right. What's next? So while you're in school, just like in high school, here's what you should be focusing on while you're in college, right? Focus on your growth and maturity. You have the opportunity right now, while you're in college, to play the game that you love at a high level, to get an education for free, a quality education, no matter what school you go to, but you also have downtime. You have moments where you can sit and reflect and figure out who it is that you want to be, whether that's an athlete, whether that is, a parent one day, whether that's a leader in your community. You have the opportunity now to figure out, how does basketball fit into all of that? But also you have the opportunity to see the world around you. And in college, you may even get the opportunity to travel abroad and to see the world, whether that's playing basketball or part of a class, right? So it's very, very important that you take the opportunity, you take the time to really appreciate the moment that you're in if you're in college and you're able to be a professional athlete, because you're in a really sweet spot. And if you don't really stop for a moment and see it for what it is, you can miss out on some really important things. I would say while you're also in college, consider community service and opportunities to travel abroad. Like I said, community service is big. Community service is a great way for you to engage with the community that you're part of. Because again, once you go to the league, you're going to be part of a team that's part of a city, and a city that you may or may not be familiar with. And people are going to see you out in the streets. People are going to want to know your name and know your story. And it's important that you put yourself into that community as well, because that's always going to help, not just with your fans, but with your marketing, with the team organization, the team dynamics. It's just good. And on top of that, if you have something that means something to you, right? Let's say you're a product of a single family household. And so childcare is something that has always been important to your growing up, and you wouldn't be who you were if you didn't have a place like the YMCA or your local rec center or Boys and Girls Club, right? There's an opportunity right there for you to reach out to those spaces and give back and say, hey, I'm in a position right now to do some pretty cool stuff. What can I do to kind of help you guys out? Man, I remember in high school, I used to do like a little clinic with like, eighth graders. And we did some basketball drills. Hey, can I come and do some basketball drills? Can I come volunteer and help officiate some games? Can I help volunteer and maybe do your books for you when, do your game books? Or can I, help coach a team or anything like that? What is it that I can do for, this community that I'm in and for the young people or whomever, right? Whatever your passion, your calling is, what is it that I can do while I'm here to help give back to the community? Man, that's important. That's something that, again, you don't really realize. Not only does it help fill your cup up on the inside, but you make a transformational change in that community. And again, when it's time, that community helps push and build you up. So again, I'm trying to tell you, I'm kicking knowledge right here, bro. Kicking knowledge. But also, when it comes to basketball, you're still learning the game. You're watching film, just like you did in high school. You are training harder than you did in high school. You are eating right. I can't stress the importance of eating correctly, knowing that what you put in your body is going to come out. It's going to be the output, right? It's so and critically important. Just as important, sleep. I know. Now you're in college. The parties sound crazy. Like, oh my God, it's a baddie. Or it's like, you know what I mean? He falling or whatever, whatever. I get all that. I was still focused on maintaining friendships because again, it's just going to be more. You become a first round draft pick, there's gonna be people just flooding your inbox, your phone constantly, trying to be like, yo, let's go out, let's do something. Da, 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 da. Like you will have your pick. Trust. But if you never get to that point, and I'm not saying like, oh, if you just wait, you'll have your pick of the litter, but like you need to focus on basketball right now, right? And having people that you can trust in your inner circle that are around you and supporting you. That's what the priority and the focus is. And getting your rest is hugely important. Man, there's gonna be more parties to go to. The only party you should really be focused on trying to get to is when y'all win the NBA championship. That should be the party you're focused on getting to. That's when you're like, oh, we about to turn up. We just won the NBA championship. But I guarantee you, even then, if you've gotten this mentality, this mindset, trying to be one of the greatest of all time, you're gonna appreciate that moment. And so like, yo, that's fun. But in the back of your mind, you're gonna be like, all right, I maybe didn't play like the best game I could have played. What do I need to do so we can do this again? I want to win the NBA championship again. And then I want to be able to make the national team, represent my country, and I want to be one of the best players in the world, definitively and period. That's one of the greatest of all time. That's the kind of mentality you want to work on developing and creating. Again, not just the best in the city, not just the best in the NBA, but one of the best in the world. Same thing. Officiate, work at some of these summer camps. Could be an opportunity to make a little bit of money. Again, that's not your goal. That's not your focus. But officiate. See if you can, in college, you might be able to get patched. And patched means you might be able to work with a local governing body for officials to be able to become a certified basketball referee, depending on different levels, right? Now, you can't be a referee for college games, obviously, if you're in college, but you might be able to be a ref for maybe some high school or some middle school games while you're in college. Again, it all depends on if it aligns with your schedule too, right? So it's something important to consider. And again, talk basketball. You want to be talking basketball with those who have high level knowledge of basketball. So your coaches, maybe there are other coaches from other schools that you guys have a great rapport with, a great relationship with. We're not talking in the sense of like, how can I get a competitive advantage against this team, and how can I, you mess up something they're doing, but you might have an opportunity to learn and understand the game a little bit more, a little bit better from different coaches. Talk to your athletic director who may have also had a player or two come through their program and make it onto the NBA. Hey, what did they do? How did you know, or when did you know that they were going to go to the NBA? What were some of the skills and traits and habits that they had that got them to the next level? And again, it doesn't hurt to know who your athletic director is. That person is looking to support you any way they can. Sports information director. Again, this person records all the stats. They're doing the books. They're watching your game. They can tell you this is what your shooting percentage is. This is what this is. They can also tell you how you compare and stack up and rank to other players who participate in the same program. That's their job. Referees and trainers, same thing. There's nothing wrong with knowing who the refs are. There's something wrong with trying to work the refs and trying to get them to like you so that you don't get certain calls. We're not talking about that. We're talking about understanding the game, again, from an official standpoint, so that you can be the best player that you can absolutely be. And then again, trainers, people that are working with you and your body to making sure that you're in the top physical condition at all times. Now, you do all this, I got a good, strong, good feeling that come draft night, you ain't got nothing to worry about. And why do I say that? Because here's the thing. If you've done all of this, right? And let's say you've had success, people know who you are. You will likely get drafted. I can't tell you when or where, right? But you will likely get drafted. If you don't get drafted, there's a good chance that you didn't get drafted because you realized at some point playing basketball wasn't nearly as important to you as being around basketball. Wow, what does that mean? That simply means you realize that there's something about the game that you really, really love that doesn't require you to put on a jersey and to play on game days. Maybe you fell in love with coaching. Maybe you fell in love with officiating. Maybe you fell in love with game day management or, running the book or doing the shot clock scoreboard. Maybe you fell in love with announcing. Maybe you fell in love with commentating on the game or learning and being able to do analysis and be an analyst. Nothing wrong with that. There are so many careers that are tied to sports that don't involve you actually being an athlete. And what is important in that is that could be your path to the league that you're trying to get to. Just because you want to go to the league doesn't mean you have to be a player. And that's the message. That's your big takeaway. You do all these things, you will identify a path that you are passionate about in pursuing. Again, it may not mean being an athlete. It could be being a coach, being a referee, being one of those other things, but you're still there. You're still around the game that you love, and you're engaged and you're locked in and you're doing the things you're passionate about. And so when it's all said and done, you found a way to get in the league. And here's the funny thing. The hardest way to get in the league is by being an athlete. One of the easier ways, though, is by doing all of these other things that are in the sports ecosystem that don't require you being an athlete. So if you really want to get to the league, think about how you're going to get there. Hey, this has been another episode of Life Saving Curriculum. I've been Quan King. I appreciate y'all. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all the things to get me popping up in the algorithm. Tell me what your thoughts are on this episode. If you fucks with it, let me know. If you don't fuck with it, let me know too. All right? Holla at your boy. One. Thanks for listening to another episode on Life Saving Curriculum Podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube as we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. If you like this content and want to support, head over to the website, lifesavingcurriculum.com, and click donate. Also, I'm always looking for guests to share their stories, especially if it can help the next generation. Hit me up using the contact link. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more.